want to thank the Lord for keeping us safe throughout the day and enabling us to get this prayer meeting. Without wasting much time, I'll give this time to Ps.Chitsaru.
Good evening, saints.
Amen.
Thank you for your smiles and thank you for attending in numbers today. I think it's the fact that you were starved of yesterday's message that today you decided to come in your numbers. Apologies for not being there or not being able to send the audio presentation as expected. But believe you me, my heart was with you in prayer, and I do pray that that time that we didn't spend together yesterday will be compensated enough in today's message. So today I'm not speaking about anything else. Well, I can't keep on repeating this. You already know that I'm not very fond of what we call guided compositions. So I will read the document, and I know that you have already read the document, so there is no point for me to repeat what you already know. So I will try by all means to just amplify, maybe from another angle, the same truth that we may have read together. Are we together? Yes. Well, I won't be having my own different theme. Maybe I will have a different title and a different text of focus, but it's meant to beef up what we have already read so that it's practically applicable to our situations. So I'm going to talk about the price of cowardice. You know, when you have greed, you have passion, and you have perseverance, you have every reason to be brave. Are we together? Because that alone propels you, it pushes you further to achieve your goals. But when you have no grit, you have no passion, you have no perseverance, maybe what may be behind everything that you are experiencing is cowardice. You know, there are some people who are afraid of waking up and go to look for employment simply because they are cowards. They will tell you, who employ me out there? There are no jobs in Zimbabwe, but they've never woken out of their beds to go and look for employment. Cowardice can make people pay in hunger. Cowardice can make people pay even in their marriages. So we have to look at the price of cowardice. The text that I'm going to use is a common chapter. We already know the story of David and Goliath, right? But there's a verse that I want us to focus on, where we need to understand what's really happening here. Let's look at chapter 17, 1 Samuel, the verse is 16. 1 Samuel chapter 17, the verse is 16. Here it says, "For 40 days the Philistine came forward and took his stand, morning and evening." Did you hear this? How many days? 40 days and evenings. The Philistine came and took his stand, making his presentation. For how long? 40 days. What would happen when he makes his presentation? It's so alarming. When you read the Bible, in verse 24 it says, "And all the men of Israel, when they saw the men, fled from him and were much afraid." So imagine, for 40 days, Goliath is standing and the Israelites are running away. 40 days. Remember, these are soldiers who are paid to fight. Are we together? They are paid to fight, but for this entire month they were paid to run away. No, you didn't hear me. Fear can make people earn for nothing. There are people who are earning money for doing nothing simply because they are afraid. You know, they will tell you reasons why they are not embarking on this project. They will tell you reasons why they don't have the resolve to close this deal, because they are afraid, and they earn for that. And someone is losing money because of other people's fear. Had it not been that we are afraid as a church to meet the people whom we are surrounded with in evangelism, maybe we could have been using the resources that we have to convert those souls. But we are very much afraid, and we keep those resources to ourselves. We are benefiting for being afraid. We have every reason not to go to evangelize. We have every reason not to invite our neighbors. Look at us, we are enjoying ourselves during these 10 days. You are flocking here to listen to these wonderful messages. But are we inviting our neighbors? No. Because we are afraid if we invite them, what if the preacher that day decides to hammer them? And then we will lose our friendship with them. Fear made the soldiers in Israel to end. Goliath was earning for standing, making the Israelites afraid. And the Israelites were earning an entire month. And they were even moving into the second month, being paid to run away. That's not the only thing. The king was not only losing money paying cowards, he was also willing to sacrifice for his cowardice. He even said, whoever kills this Philistine, number one, he will be exempted from tax. His entire family, tax exemption. He's not willing to go and fight Goliath, but he's willing to pay someone to do his dirty work. You know, there's some of us who don't have the guts, who don't have what it takes to go and confront our problems, but we want others to solve them on our behalf. And we are willing to pay. Cowardice is expensive. Not only that, he also said, if you fight and win this battle against this Philistine, your family will earn half of my wealth. Not only that, he said, the man who kills this Philistine will marry my daughter. Come on. There are some parents here present who are willing to sacrifice their children to someone who pleases them and does their bidding. They don't allow their children to have willpower over their marriages. They want to give their children to people whom they think can solve their problems. There are so many people who are in miserable marriages because their parents could not stand poverty. You didn't hear me? Someone decided to get married so that their brothers can get employment. It's sour in that marriage, but that's the price they have to pay for their cowardice. They could not stand and say, well, I am a respectable individual who has to make his own choices, and I need to find someone who loves me and I love them mutually. But they had to sacrifice and say, well, as long as my family is happy, I am too, even though they are lying. Cowardice is expensive. Are we together? There are some people who are even living in houses that are proving to be expensive for them to stay in. But because they have to keep face before people, they can't afford, they know it, they are struggling, they are suffering, but they still want to maintain a status that is long gone. It's very expensive to them, but they don't have the grit. They don't have the resolve to say, well, this is something that I no longer afford. Let me step down and live within my means. There are prices we pay for our cowardice. Are we together? But I love David. David introduced himself on this scene as a young man full of bravery. He resolved in his mind that if I could do this to a bear, if I could do this to a lion, who is this uncircumcised Philistine to stand before me and my God? We need people who can stand firm, people who can persevere in hardships and they can face them. Saying like David, even though I walk through the valleys of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. There is no fear in them. Why? Because the Lord is with them. That's the kind of people we need. Those are the kind of people that are needed in heaven. bravery begets bravery. Look at David. He started this bravery thing at a tender age. And if you look at those who were his followers, his army generals, one man could fight 800 men and they would die. Defending a field of lentils. Imagine. Could defend Amunda Nyemba. Alone. I would rather stand and die than let this field of lentils go away. That's how brave one of the soldiers were. 3 of them went into a city to fetch water for the king. You still remember that story? When you are brave, you inspire bravery in your children. When you are resilient, you inspire resilience in your children. When you are persevering, you inspire perseverance in your children. But when you are cowards, don't expect to have giants amongst your children. Are we together? A church that is led by cowards is full of cowards. A home that is led by cowards or a coward is a home of cowards. No doubt about that. Therefore, we have to ensure that we have this personal grit, this drive, this passion to stand firm for God. Are we together? Now, as I get to the conclusion of this talk, I'm reminded of a page in the book Education, that's page 57. The chapter is Lives of Great Men. Should be chapter 7. Lives of Great Men, that's the title. The page is 57. It says, the greatest want of this world. What is lacking the most in this world? The greatest want of this world is not men who are rich. It's not men and women who are married. It's not children who have parents. No. It is men and women who can neither be bought nor sold, who can stand firm on principle as a needle to the poor, who are true to duty, who can call sin by its rightful name. They have resolve, they have grit. But the challenge that we have is that we have people who have grit. They have resolve, they have perseverance, and they have this resilience, and they have this charm about them to call things that are not seen by their rightful names when they leave the real sins. Someone, when a person sees you doing something different to them and they don't believe in doing that, they will think that it's a sin because they don't do that. But when it comes to an area where they have weaknesses, they will keep quiet. I believe that people who are powerful are people who can call themselves chief of sinners and still call the sin that they participate in a sin. Sin does not cease to be a sin because the preacher, because the pastor, because the elder is participating in it. And I personally believe that powerful sermons are not sermons that rebuke people in the pews, but are sermons that convert the preacher and the listeners together. Those sermons can convert all of us. When we have that grit, when you feel like he is speaking to the reality of who we are, then you can be converted and I can be converted. But when I'm speaking and you feel like he's talking about me, the next thing you will want to do is run away from where you hear that I'm preaching. Because you know you'll be hammering me. I think he has heard stories about me. We are not in want of people like those. There are many people who, when they see you participating in things in sins that they don't participate in, they will wait to hammer your sins and leave theirs untouched. But people with grit, people with resilience, they will say, create in me all